I'm here in Hangar 1 with General Jaeger in Natrona County, Casper, Wyoming, which has to be the biggest little secret in all of Wyoming, and that's this museum and the fact that they have MiGs here, real MiGs here, General. You want to take it home?
Yeah. I'd love to. When I started out my Air Force career after graduating from the academy, went into intelligence, and the MiGs, the 15s and 17s, were one of the first things that we really studied. And so this takes me right back to my roots.
This was actually in service when you first got into the service?
Yes.
Wow. So now that they've made it into, and some people would wonder, how do these two make it into Wyoming and make it in to this hangar right here? But Hangar 1 in Natrona County in Casper, Wyoming is where the good Warbird Museum, and that's what brings you up from Texas, right?
You bet. Jim has built just assembled an incredible piece of history here. Not only the MiGs, but even prior to that, some of the World War II trainers. We're losing our World War II veterans. The fact that over 1,600 bomber crews were trained here, 16,000 airmen right here at this airport, and we're losing all that. If we don't capture it, there's only a few left.
And this is one of those places where on occasion they have events that they've brought in World War II fighter planes. There was a Mustang out there not long ago. There was a Wildcat out there. They had a few bombers. They were taking people for rides. So every so often these big hangar doors open up and they clear out everything inside the hangar to let the crowds in, and people get to not only climb through those old airplanes but actually go for a fly. And then at any time during the course of the year they want to walk right into the museum, they can do that. But again, a lot of people don't know that this is here.
Yeah. And that's sad when they live so close and they could take such. The museum is free. Mm-hmm. You can just walk in. So what a great opportunity.
And it's not just about the history of the warbirds that's there. There's also history for those people who are in general aviation. There's also history for those people who like the old airlines, because both Jim Good and Ed Good, they worked for the airlines as well on some of the greatest planes that ever flew from way back when. So you came all the way up here to help us bring awareness to that.
And every time I come, I learn something new because of this museum. I don't think you could spend 2 weeks here and probably not absorb everything.
General Jaeger, you're also on the board for Victory for Veterans. For those people who don't know, what exactly does that organization do?
Well, we're a little bit unique. There's certainly hundreds of veterans organizations across the country doing very good work, treating veterans, counseling veterans, getting them assistance with job training and housing. Many of those organizations are good at delivering service. Unfortunately, they're not all good at raising the money needed. And so our mission in Victory for Veterans is to raise funds and get it to the organizations that really take care of our veterans.
And is that what brings you to this museum here in Wyoming?
In part, we knew that there were some real treasures here that were somewhat in danger. And so we specifically aligned with Ed Good to protect the heritage that his father assembled here.
So, General Jaeger, we're going to get into where you began your career, but first I want to go into what got you into aviation in the first place. You were telling me a story about being a kid looking up.
Yeah, you bet. And that's why this museum and museums like it are so important to us, because when I was growing up, working out in the field in Wisconsin, I could look up and I'd see military airplanes. Now there aren't that many military airplanes, and the ones that are way up high, and kids don't have that inspiration like I had.
Yeah.
And so the place that they can get it is touching airplanes, seeing what men and women have accomplished in aviation.
So for you, that in part had to do with Civil Air Patrol, and like, how did you find Civil Air Patrol in your area, and did you get up in one of these?
I sure did. T-34 is a very special airplane, fully aerobatic. You can do loops and anything you want. But yeah, I knew from seeing those airplanes fly over as a 12, 13-year-old that I wanted to fly, and figured out the way to get there was through Civil Air Patrol. Found the squadron in our little town and just took off from there.
Was there military history in your family?
Actually, there was,
Yeah.
and that's again why heroes, I think, are so important to young kids. I actually found my grandfather's World War I machine gunner uniform up in Grandma's attic, and that just really triggered me.
Okay, so to go into Civil Air Patrol at your age at that time, where would that have been located at?
So I lived in Wisconsin on a farm, and the nearest town was about 5 miles away and had a squadron. And so my parents were very supportive. They took me to town, for the meetings once a week, and it captured my attention. I often say that I would not have made it into the Air Force Academy, or I wouldn't have survived that tough dually year without everything that Civil Air Patrol had given me.
When you got into the Air Force Academy, what was your goal?
Well, my goal was to be a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my eyes went bad. Lots of studying at the academy, and so I didn't get to fly as a pilot, although I did eventually get a commercial instrument rating. But I did get to fly on some of the big reconnaissance birds. Typically, the back-end crews on the reconnaissance birds worked for me.
Okay. Now your career after. He's
okay.
not too loud, but I'll wait.
The sound of engines is a good thing.
Sometimes they're really loud, though, and that's why I paused a little, because we were trying to do some of these interviews outside, and things kept going right overhead, and I can't do that. So if you're not going to be able to fly, you're at what rank at that time, and did you reset your sights?
Great question. So coming out of the academy at that time, we owed 5 years of service for essentially a free college education. So I knew I was going to have to do something. Thought about intelligence, and actually someone steered me to Signals Intelligence, the National Security Agency. And first assignment on the island of Crete, second assignment in Thailand, and I was hooked. At that point, it was making a career.
Yeah, and at that point you get to see the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long did it take you to get up to general?
It took about 21 years.
21 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really blessed. There are rumors going around that I was the youngest general. I doubt that. I think during World War II there must have been some fairly young generals.
Yeah.
But I was the first out of my class at the Air Force Academy.
Yeah.
And that's really ironic, because since I couldn't fly, I thought, I don't want to be a second-class citizen in the Air Force. Well, it turns out you can compete.
How long ago was that you left?
That I left the Air Force and retired? 97.
Wow. Do you miss it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's ironic what we're doing now with my current company, and the last two companies, frankly. Catching hackers is very mission oriented, and frankly, it's one of the new battlefronts for the United States is cyber war.
But you're still working in this, because you just came all the way up from Texas to here to try to inspire people not just to come to the museum, but to inspire people into this, the next generation. So I guess you never really lost the bug then, did you?
No, and I really feel it's important to give back as well.
Yeah.
Once I retired from active duty, I came back to Civil Air Patrol, ran summer encampments for a couple of states around the Washington, D.C. area, and just did things like that, presented awards, and just to give back what Civil Air Patrol had given me.